It's a matter of priority. Mary Shelley's Frankenstein is my favorite book. Reading it in middle school was a formative experience for me. I fell in love with its structure, its themes, its characters. It is my favorite depiction of an artist's obsession in any piece of media ever. So naturally, I watched Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein that just came out on Netflix, and then I watched Kenneth Branagh's 1994 Frankenstein, both for the first time, and boy was that an experience. They both are legitimate attempts to adapt the novel that take significant liberties. They're even similar in how they digress from the book, and sometimes in very specific ways. They both have destructive fires and added subplots. They both give Elizabeth a dynamic with the creature, and also both of them have Frankenstein begging a creation of his to say his name in the emotional resolution.
Say my name. Say my name. One last time.
There are similar visual motifs, a lot of which weren't really in the book. They break from Mary Shelley quite a lot, but nonetheless exude an unmistakable love of the source material. However, after watching these two movies nearly back to back, I was more struck by how they are different. Guillermo del Toro's gothic style of exaggerated proportions and saturated colors could not be more different than Branagh's naturalistic lighting and muted pastels. But it was where the respective directors put their focus that intrigued me more. It's a matter of priority. Guillermo del Toro's heart lied firmly and irrevocably with the monster. The monster was the most, and in many ways only, sympathetic character. All the pathos and tender humanity was reserved for him. He was softened. His character design was made less grotesque and more superhumanly mesmerizing than anything. Even the love interest responds to him in a way she doesn't with Frankenstein or even her fiancé. And why wouldn't she? Frankenstein's humanity and any admirable qualities are leached away. The evils he committed out of neglect and cowardice in the book now spring from active cruelty and near maniacal megalomania. Kenneth Branagh's Frankenstein, in sharp contrast, is the reverse. He focused less on the monster, rushing through the tragic events that awaken the creature's resentment, and go nearly straight to house fires and child murder. But Branagh doesn't rush with Frankenstein. His heart is in Frankenstein's story, and so is his performance. Kenneth Branagh himself plays Frankenstein, and so naturally, he chooses to linger on his story, painting a slow and deliberate picture of his motivations and justifications as he falls to hubris and obsession. On the topic of obsession, the way they handle the love interest is also radically different. Both of them do kind of dabble in the Bride of Frankenstein angle. Both of them have the monster want Elizabeth. For some reason, this is a common adaptational choice. But regardless, Branagh's Elizabeth actively loves Frankenstein, and it's their relationship is generally a wholesome force in his life. Del Toro's Elizabeth seems to care more about the monster than she ever did for Frankenstein. In fact, Frankenstein and her relationship has this toxic, almost poisoned feel to it, which reads to me as a extension of Del Toro's general depiction of Frankenstein himself. All his relationships are kind of rotten to the core. Branagh, on the other hand, goes out of his way to show how positive most of his relationships are before he makes the monster, before he even goes to school. A large chunk of the movie is Frankenstein's school days before making the monster. Notably, Guillermo del Toro chooses to skip Frankenstein's entire education, instead opting for a single scene where he openly confesses to his experiments arrogantly and is kicked out of the school for it. Thinking about the priorities of the film, this makes sense. Where Brana's Frankenstein studies lead him descending into obsession, Del Toro's Frankenstein is already obsessed, and has been obsessed since long before he ever got to school. There is no descent for a man that is already low. He is already a miserable man, long before he creates the monster. He is a hollowed figure, ready to play the cruel father to the monster's innocent son. And I do mean innocent. These films are an interesting case in the shifting of blame. Mary Shelley's depiction of Frankenstein and his creation are a nuanced web where all parties are at fault in some way, and all parties could have made small choices that would have averted disaster. That is the tragedy of Frankenstein, that it was utterly and absolutely preventable by both of them. The respective directors tip the scales. In the book, Frankenstein's inability to admit his own wrongdoing leads to the death of innocent people, and Brana removes all moments of Frankenstein making the choice to stay silent and let people die. He downplays his hubris, his arrogance, his cowardice, even his irresponsibility. He downplays Frankenstein's faults, but of course he does. He plays him. He relates to him. Kenneth Branagh downplays Frankenstein's faults at every turn, while Del Toro plays them up and add some new ones. He even has him kill a few people actively. All people that used to have been killed by the monster. Pretty much all the monster's kills are now either Frankenstein's or the fault of random, insanely violent wolves. By the end of Del Toro's version, the monster is practically blameless and nearly bloodless, some poor Arctic explorers notwithstanding. And I kind of love the disparity between these two directors' visions. Balancing these two films side by side, you almost feel they are the biased retellings from the principal characters' perspectives, retellings that paint one side or the other as the faultless victim. They are adaptations deliberately distorted by a singular perspective and narrow focus. It's just a matter of priority. Thank you for watching. Tell me what you think of either of the movies down below, and if you enjoyed the review, please subscribe. Also, if you'd like to read a different story of a created entity of destruction, do check out my book, Bone Song: Diary of a Sentient Sword. I release 2 chapters for free a week. Start reading now in the link below. Happy reading. Take care.